Hello, and welcome back to Rolling Movie Recaps. Today, we are going to explain an American sci-fi action film called Moonfall, which was released this year, 2022. The story of the film is about a world which stands on the brink of annihilation, when a mysterious force knocks the moon from its orbit and sends it hurtling toward a collision course with Earth. With only weeks before impact, NASA executive Jacinda Fowler teams up with a man from her past and a conspiracy theorist for an impossible mission into space to save humanity. To know the story in full detail, watch the video till the end. But before we begin, beware of spoilers, watch out and take care. And I hope you enjoy the video. In 2011, astronauts Brian Harper, Jacinda Fowler, and newcomer Marcus were on a space shuttle mission to repair a satellite. They were being led out of the shelter by Jacinda Fowler, Joe. Everything was going fine until their communication system went down. Brian notices something approaching. These were tiny nano-sized creatures, and they and their satellite collided. Brian's companion was lost somewhere in space. Brian appears at Joe's shelter in some way. He notices Joe has passed out while attempting to contact his partner, but there was nothing useful there. Brian, accompanied by his friend Joe, departs for the Earth. The tiny nano-sized creatures were making strange holes on the moon. After 18 months, the tale turns and we see Brian's wife. She watches the news on TV and learns that Brian has been fired from NASA as a result of the incident that occurred in space. On TV, it was announced that NASA did not believe Brian and Joe's statement. Brian's wife had filed a divorce from him, and she was about to relocate with her son Sonny to another country because they have lost their home as a result of this incident. After 10 years, the film's plot shifts. We observe Dr. Casey Houseman, who is gathering information regarding the moon's activities. He noticed something unusual about the moon's orbital distance. Casey quickly calls NASA and requests to speak with the director. Joe gets a call from NASA, and she gets up early the next morning to go to work. When Joe arrives at the Space Center, she learns about the strange activities on the moon. She was notified that the moon's orbital system is shifting. The orbital radius is shrinking, and they're noticing something strange in the footage on the moon's primary surface. NASA people were not taking Casey Houseman's statements seriously. Now, it is Astronaut Day and Casey learns about it. Casey arrives at the location where the Astronaut Day celebrations were taking place. Meanwhile, when he arrives, all he finds are children. He gives the children a lecture about the moon. Meanwhile, Brian, who was supposed to give the lecture, arrives. Casey meets Brian and tells him about the facts he's gathered so far. He informs Brian that the moon has deviated from its normal orbit. Brian was thinking of his statements as a joke, and later his guards took Casey away. He leaves his papers to Brian for reading them. Brian gets a call from his wife. She informs him that his son has been apprehended by the police and has been caught with drugs. Brian's son is later put on trial in court, and the judge postpones the case because Brian has asked the judge to take his son away. However, the judge decides to postpone the matter there. We see Casey, who is on her way to see her mother. His mother is living at an old-age home and is suffering from short-term memory loss. Casey's mother feels confident in her son's discoveries. She instructs her son to reassure the rest of the world that his information is correct. On the other hand, we see a space center where Joe's co-workers are discussing the fact that they only have 3 weeks left. Later, little fragments of the moon will fall to Earth. There is just one solution. They must travel to the moon to see the hole. Isn't that what that hole has? They've now discovered that there's some news on Twitter. This has been done by Casey. The judge who was with Brian notices the news on TV that the moon has fallen out of its orbit as well. Brian's ex-wife, together with her husband and children, is about to leave. No one could go because of the traffic. Now, NASA and European space agencies were collaborating on a project. The news had reached every corner of the globe, and everyone was in a panic. Brian is impelled to read the papers of Casey. He also visits his websites while NASA launches its spaceship to the moon. After reaching the moon, they discover a large hole and place a crock inside. Brian approaches Casey and inquires about his knowledge of these things. Casey explains that he has been researching space and the Earth. He informs Brian that the power core of the moon has suffered something. That's why the moon's orbit has been disrupted. While plummeting, the core comes to a halt at 25.6 kilometers. It automatically starts climbing again. The same nano creatures emerge from the breach as orbit begins to shift again. They launch an attack on the space shuttle, killing everyone in the group. Jo becomes astonished when she sees it and wonders what it is. The seawater begins to enter the city as a result of the moon's gravity. Gradually, the water crept into the city, wreaking havoc. Brian manages to save Casey, and the director of NASA is terrified to see what's going on. After watching this, he notifies his family that they are all about to leave. When Jo hears this, she asks a question from the director. Would you run from here? Because she feels like there's something that he's not telling her. Jo is told by NASA's director, if you want to know everything there is to know about NASA, then go meet a man. He also gives her his card for clearance. Jo arrives at the location where her director has informed her. She goes there and listens to some old recordings. In the footage from the repair machine, she notices those nano creatures. When she meets a man named Holden Field, he informs Jo about the incident. When people discover something unusual on the moon's surface, this was a form of light, but NASA sought to keep it hidden. That mission is linked to the mission repair we saw at the start of the movie. When Brian tried to bring this up, they fired him from the job, claiming he was mad. He claims that technology is advanced and that we are still living in the Stone Age in comparison to them. Jo speaks with military personnel at the base where her ex-husband works. He doesn't listen to her. However, the military also wanted to use nuclear power to destroy the moon. However, the Earth will be in danger, and Jo's ex-husband urges her to consider taking her son. He claims that you must all proceed from there. He informs her that you must all go to Colorado. The scene turns to Brian and Casey, who are conversing. Brian is told by Casey that you've seen alien technology in space. Brian tells Casey that my friend's life has been taken by an alien. When he returned to Earth, he was divorced, and his son was also separated from him. National security personnel arrive to grab Brian, and Brian departs with Casey. He runs into Jo, who shows her the tape. She plays the same recording and says there's a hole in it that is kilometers deep, and everything that happened 10 years ago is still relevant today. Jo also shows him footage of the nano creature murdering their own members. Casey informs them that these creatures are tinkering with the moon's core. The moon was most likely created by the animals. Jo informs Brian that she will require his help in the upcoming mission. Brian, on the other hand, requires something in return. Their shelter was taken from a museum. Jo tells her that Holden Field had told her about a device. The technology is known as an EMP device, and it is capable of killing nanoorganisms. She tells her ex-husband about everything. On the other hand, everyone in the California airbase sees the earthquake and volcano reports from Asia. People in the Air Force take camp devices, which as a result kill the nanoorganisms. In exchange, Brian has requested the release of his son, Sonny, from prison. Brian tells everyone about his plan and is relieved to see his pal Sonny. A major earthquake strikes the location where the shutter was to be launched. Casey detects anything unusual about the moon's activities once more. It has been discovered that the earthquake has caused damage to the shelter. Now that nothing could be possibly done, Jo instructs everyone to clear the space, and she asks them to join him in Colorado, where they can all shelter in a bunker. Approaches Jo and informs her that the moon's gravitational pull is fast growing. We should begin our task soon, but Jo informs him that it has already been completed. Jo approaches Brian and informs him that only the two of them would be going to space. They do, however, require another flight engineer, so they enlist his help. Casey makes strange excuses here, but this was his first mission. Brian requests Casey to be prepared. Before traveling to the mission, Jo and Brian meet their children. Both parents say goodbye to their children. Sonny, Brian's son, and Jo's children are all heading to Colorado. They reach Aspen and reunite with Harper's ex-wife and son's mom Brenda, as well as his step-family. But they are caught in the multiple disasters caused by the rapid destruction wrought by the near proximity of the moon. As the group makes their way towards the bunker, They fight off other survivors and increasingly deadly natural disasters before reaching the safety of a deep mountain tunnel. Brenda's husband Tom sacrifices himself to save his youngest daughter, suffocating as the moon strips away the localized atmosphere by its gravitational pull during a close by orbital pass. Houseman uses the EMP device and their lunar module to lure the swarm away from their spacecraft before detonating the device. He does so, knowing he will die, while obliterating the AI swarm, allowing Fowler and Harper to escape to the now nearby Earth. With its power and systems restored, the moon structure begins to return to its regular orbit, bringing an end to all the destruction. Fowler and Harper successfully land their spacecraft in Colorado and are eventually reunited with Sonny, Jimmy, Michelle, and Brenda. Joe tells Brian that the planet is perfectly secure. Finally, everyone meets each other. Brian learns that his wife's ex-husband is no longer living. He has died. When Sonny inquires about Casey from his father, Brian tells his son that he has saved this Earth, as well as the moon. The moon's operating system, which is an AI being created by humanity's ancient ancestors, reveals that it stored a copy of Houseman's consciousness as he sacrificed himself, appearing to the reconstructed Houseman as his mother and cat. Fuzz Aldrin, the AI projection, remarks that they now need to get to work in repairing the massive destruction wrought upon the Earth. Moon's operating system tells him to begin right away, and this is where Moonfall comes to an end. To watch more explanations of these kinds of movies, click on the videos on your screen. And don't forget to let me know how you feel about today's video in the comments down below. Kindly like the video and subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon so you don't miss any new videos. And at last, I will say, stay safe, stay well. Thanks for watching.